Hello, this video tutorial covers Chapter 2 in the EViews Illustrated Text, and this is the third in a series covering the chapter, and we're picking up where the second video left off. Okay, and this video will focus on importing data into EViews. All right, we've worked with a lot of files that have already been set up in EViews format, okay, but quite often you need to work with data that's not prepared in an EViews work file format, okay, and so what we can do is with EViews open, I'm going to go ahead and go to File and Open, and I'm going to open foreign data as a work file. Okay. If I look here down on the bottom right, it indicates right now it's looking at all files. But if I click the drop down arrow, I can see all the different files that EViews can bring in. Okay, so it's used to working with Excel files and text files and SAS format and SPSS and Stata and a number of other formats. So it's quite versatile in what it can work with. Okay, it's also worth noting that you can bring files in these formats. You can also save an EViews work file into these formats if you want to move it or send it to somebody else in a different format. All right. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and open up an Excel file here. And let me go navigate to my data. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and bring in an Excel file right here for academic salaries by discipline. Okay. We've been working with the EViews formatted files in the past. Okay. But now we're just going to go ahead and work with the Excel. So if I select it and say open, it identifies my data, and this does a really excellent job of reading the data in correctly for the most part. Okay, it can identify the headers and sees the column and cell breakpoints and so forth. Okay, and so oftentimes you can just go ahead and click finish, but I'm going to work through the screen so we can see some of the options as far as what we can modify. All right, so we've got header lines. In this case, there's only one row header, so that's fine. If we had multiple rows, we could modify as needed, so forth. Yeah. All right, and so we see that we're creating a new work file. It's undated with an ID series. It's identified correctly that it's undated, right? And we will finish. All right, and so we just brought in our series from Excel into EViews. All right, and notice again, it was still formatted to be organized by discipline, so I really didn't need to pull over discipline since it's in the observation here. Okay. All right, that's one example. Let me show you another example we can bring in here. And this is going to be working with something that's a little bit different. Okay, we're going to be working with a file we haven't seen before, and it's got some slight formatting issues. Okay, so first off, let me take a look at it here. And this is going to be excuse me, which one am I working with here? I'm going to be working with treasury bills. Okay, so treasury interest. Okay, and notice we've got two sheets here now, which we haven't seen or dealt with before. Okay, and this again is in Excel format. The first sheet is the README file, and it gives us all the documentation and background on where we're getting our data from and so forth. Second sheet is monthly. Okay. Also note that we have 2 rows of headers on some of these items. Okay, and so that's an issue we'll also have to deal with. Okay, so let's do this. Let me go ahead and close out of this, and let's bring it into. Let me close this one as well. Okay, let's go to EViews. Let's go ahead and bring that file in. Okay, so open foreign data. All right, so this is Treasury interest rates. We open it. Okay, now first issue where it's got two worksheets, right? We note that it's identifying the README file as the one it wants to pull in and work with, and actually we want to select the monthly file, right? So we're looking at the proper sheet now. Go to the next screen, and here we see that it's got two header lines, right? But what we want to do really is we only want to bring in names in the last line, so we don't want to bring in all the top information. Okay, so there we go. We can see what it'll look like. We really only have data in the 3-month T-bill column. All right, and so it's date specified, creating a new file, work file, and there we have it. And if I want to take a look at this, I can group it, open it, all right, and see that we've got it organized by date and 3-month treasury rates. All right. Now, it's worth noting that there are several other ways to bring Excel data in. Okay, as in addition to the opening a foreign work file, we can do several other things. So let's take a look at that. Okay. One thing we can do, which is really handy, is we can take an Excel file, right? And I'm going to go back to the academic salaries one. And if I just click and drag it into a blank EViews screen, okay, I don't want to put it in the command line or in the series details box, okay, but if I just put it in the blank space, it knows that it's importing an Excel folder or file, excuse me. And so we can walk through the same process we did before and see that it brings it in real nicely. Okay, so that's pretty convenient. Okay. Another option of what we could do is we could copy and paste. Okay, so we drag that, but also if we happen to have an Excel file open, right? All right, let's say I want to bring this data in, I can just select it, copy, and paste as a new work file, excuse me. All right, and it does the same thing it's been doing. It identifies the formats and so forth. Okay, so we brought that data in. All right, so there are a number of different ways you can pull things in, and it's worth playing around with. All right, let's look at another file. Okay, and this one I want to go ahead and look at its New Zealand unemployment. Okay, and so if we take a look at this, it's an Excel file. Right, and so we've got quarterly data. Okay, and notice it starts June 4th and runs backwards, right? Down a ways, let's see, all the way down to 86. Okay, let's take a look at the moving this into EViews. Okay, so I'm going to take that, I'm just going to drag it into a blank EView screen and drop it. Right. We'll say next, next, and finish. Okay, so we can select quarter and unemployment rate. All right, and so notice what happened. It flipped the data oldest to newest. Okay, so be aware of it. That's it. Oftentimes, if your data comes disorganized or in a different order that you're looking for, EViews is pretty good about recognizing an appropriate order. Okay, I know oftentimes you like to work newest to oldest. Okay, so but in this case, it flipped it around to give us oldest to newest. Okay. One final thing I want to show you is that, oops, excuse me, don't want to save that. I want to show you is working with text, because we can also bring text in just like we can Excel. And so I'm going to go click on File, open a foreign data file, navigate right to where our data is. All right, and let's look for a text file. Academic salaries by discipline. And we'll open that. Okay, and so this is a text file we're bringing in. Notice we've got some issues to recognize this is a delimited file. We could also work with fixed width fields and different formats. Okay, and if we scroll down here, we'll see that it does a good job of identifying the breaks. All right. Okay, in some cases we need to make some adjustments to this, but you know, this happens to be in a format that's well recognized. Okay, and so we can see that it brought it in. Right, it was working from a text file, and I can open up like I've done in the past and see that it brings it in just fine the way we were used to working with it. All right. So these are the primary ways you're going to bring data in if it's not into EViews, if it's not already in an EViews work file format. The book goes on and addresses some other issues, so I'll let you take a look at that. It has some situations that are not necessarily common, but just kind of outliers where you might have to do some special manipulation to get it to come in. Okay, but these are the formats that we'll be working with mostly. All right, and that's the end of chapter 3, part 3.